Our chapel speaker this morning is our own Mr. Tote Smith.
Morning.
Morning.
I was going to make Michael Brown do some math on stage this morning. I decided not to, because he would have the last laugh. Until a few years ago, I used to sit right over there where Senor is sitting, and from time to time, when the chapel talk didn't really captivate me, I would let my mind wander, my eyes wander to the trees and the incredible view that's outside our chapel. Don't be too surprised that we don't have stained glass here. What's beyond is better than any stained glass I've seen. I was close enough to be worried that as the music started, Michael would seek out a victim in me. Anyway, today I wanted to let you and ask you to let your eyes wander through the window behind me as I speak today. I want you to reflect on the handful of pine trees, the maples, and the trees that flank this chapel. Because today I'm going to talk of trees. Full disclosure, I am not a tree hugger. Hugging is probably the last thing I would want to do with a tree. I grew up in many places, and I guess we all continue to grow up, but mostly I grew up working the land on farms in Maine and down in Virginia. My early youth in rural Maine was intimately linked to the trees on our farm. It was the trees that provided the many cords of firewood that got us through the long winter. We used to burn around 20 cords a year, for those of you who know anything about firewood. It was the trees that gave us lumber for building things, from furniture to bridges. It was the trees that gave us monetary value, from the sale of pulpwood for the paper mills. And it was the trees that gave us the sap for making maple syrup. We learned from a young age to distinguish between good firewood and bad firewood, to prune the trees we wanted to keep healthy, and to fell those destined for the mill or the wood stove. We also learned how to plant trees. When I see a dying tree, I err on the side of cutting it down, I have to be honest, but I always try to plant a new one in its place. It was the trees that taught me how to climb, taught me the brutal truth of gravity, how to build, how to carve, and in one rare case, even how to write poetry. I repeat, though, that I am not a tree hugger. I am just in awe of them. I have grown to appreciate them for their marvelous perfection, for their variety and how they miraculously adapt to their surroundings. The maple tree that sends down a taproot about 40 feet into the ground, whereas the aspen will grow over dozens of acres with a very shallow root system. The willow, whose roots are like spaghetti, soaking up water to sustain growth of 12 to 15 feet a year. The redwood, whose bark is so thick it can withstand forest fire. The London plane, or the sycamore, whose shedding bark preserves it even in the most polluted, that's why it's called the London plane, polluted environment. The maple that creates those crazy helicopters that will fly hundreds and hundreds of yards in a strong wind to find fertile ground. I want you to consider that it's the same genes that produce a spruce tree that will grow 100 feet or more. Those same genes will create a little tiny 5-foot tree at the top of a mountain when it's exposed to severe winds. Consider that it is literally the tree that sustains us. Each of you consumes the oxygen of half a tree. Half a tree. So our campus here, I figure, is about enough oxygen, produces enough oxygen to support the entire town of Salisbury, maybe even more. I want you to think of that little tree that finds root in a rock, and a little tiny crack in the rock, and then somehow grows to 100 feet tall, engulfing the rock, splintering the rock to pieces. And consider this. There are trees on this earth today that were alive right where they are now in the time of Jesus Christ. Closer to home, the Weeping Beech right outside is certainly as old as, and I believe older than, Salisbury School. Until about 5 or 6 years ago, most of you don't know this, there was an elm tree right in the middle of the quad that provided shade to the entire graduation ceremony. Everybody graduating, every man, woman, and child attending graduation was shaded by one single tree. So perhaps I'm easily impressed, but I am impressed by trees. So you're probably asking where this one is going. I could continue to talk about the lost trees of Salisbury's campus. I do miss them, and I do wish we would take the time to replace our lost apple trees, but that isn't it. I could talk about the horrifying deforestation of the planet that is continuing, but I just have a hard time wrapping my arms around that one right now. I could talk about Ray Tao and the small acorn growing into the mighty oak. I could talk about the language of trees and how it's invaded our expanding culture, our family. We talk about our family tree, family roots. Our government is built on the idea of branches of government. Our transportation systems, our communication, everything uses the language of trees. Even in religion, the Torah itself directly invokes the tree as the metaphor for the human being. And even our body itself, our trunk, our limbs, are all borrowed from the tree. What seems to be evident, though, to me, is that what we have in a tree is a perfect metaphor for how something can organize itself, for strength, for growth, and for stability. So whether it's the forces of the heavens or the unrelenting forces of evolution, we have in our midst something approaching perfection. So to my point, I want to look at Salisbury and ourselves as a community through the lens of the tree. Let's start below the ground. The roots of the tree. We don't see them. But as we all know, they feed and nourish the tree. They seek out the water, the nutrients. They protect the tree. They protect it from succumbing to strong winds. They hold the soil in its place. They prevent unwanted vegetation, also known as weeds. And they grow with the tree. They grow with the tree above the ground and direct its growth. And if you know anything about trees, you'll know that the root system underneath the tree is shaped very similar to the tree above the ground. So who are our roots? The closest I can get is our Board of Trustees. Our Board of Trustees, you don't see them very often. You'll see them when they're here for an annual meeting. You'll see them perhaps when they attend class. You'll see them if their son happens to attend Salisbury. But just like the roots, they're always there. They are our roots when they commit to a new athletic center, to a brand new dorm, to a new boathouse, or the funding of a new academic program. They're our roots when they seek sound investment advice for our endowment and protect us. They are our roots when they oversee the financial health of our school, when they establish and guide a headmaster and his administration. Which leads me to the trunk. The trunk of a tree. You look behind me, you'll see a lot of different types of trees. It's the trunk that provides the structure for growth. If you look at a pine, those ones out there in the middle, those are driven typically by a single trunk. A trunk that's designed to grow fast and straight toward the light. But a hardwood, like an oak or a maple over here to the right, is nothing like that. It's growing to increase its canopy. So the trunk provides the structure. It also gives the tree its strength and its stability. It grows new branches. It heals the wounds of lost branches. And it is the conduit for all the energy that comes from the leaves and gets down to the roots, and the roots water to get up to the leaves. Obviously, I think our trunk is sitting over to my right, and Mr. Chandler. He is our trunk when he directs the resources of the school to their greatest use. He's always balancing the wants of all of us against the limits of our abilities. He allows us faculty to push the programs of the school in new directions, giving us confidence and the time for that pursuit. He offers us a steady purchase. We have something to hold on to when the wind blows strong, and he works to bring healing to the wounds left by lost faculty and other members of our community. And he conveys to our roots, the Board of Trustees, the progress and the needs of the school so that we can continue to grow. The next one is my favorite, the bark. The bark of a tree, if you know anything about trees, you can kill a tree with a jackknife by cutting off its bark. Bark is essential to the tree's life, more so than any other part of the tree. Cut it off and it dies. It protects the tree from the elements, including fire and freezing temperatures. It keeps in the sap as it moves up and down the tree to bring water and nutrients to the leaves and bring back starch to the roots to grow the roots. It is the most visible part of the tree. It's one of the best ways for you, if you know anything about trees, to identify the type of tree. So our bark, I think, is the staff that keeps the school going. Our bark is Mr. Stanton, the Director of Security. Our bark is Mrs. Miller, who replaces your room key when you lose it. Our bark is the maintenance team that are up before dawn to mow, rake out the baseball diamond, and fill the gas tanks down at the boathouse. Our bark is Beatrice, who helps keep quail looking and smelling clean. Our bark is Tony and Keith and Scott and the whole crew who keep us very well fed this year. Our bark is Mr. Summers in the cage. Our bark is Mrs. Tierney. Now, if I didn't know better, I might go off on a segue on the difference between bark and bite, but of course I do know better. The branches of the tree, they guide the tree toward the light. They transport water and nutrients to the leaves, the fruit, and the seeds, and they bring them energy. I think like a tree, we have a multitude of branches. The teachers, the coaches, the admissions officers, the deans, the faculty of Salisbury are your branches. They are the branches when they identify and attract you to grow here. They are the branches when they give you the knowledge and the skills you need to grow as a student and a gentleman. They're the branches when they support you as you get blown by the wind, drenched by the rain, and dried out by the heat. They're the branches when they push you to the light, to learn more, to run faster, to sing, to act, to dance, to present your thoughts in chapel. And then, just when you don't need the branches anymore, just when you don't need that much from us, the faculty let you go, hoping that you're going to find fertile ground. And as leaves become the mulch and the future nutrients for Salisbury of the future. So the leaves, the seeds, the fruit, that's you guys. All right? The leaves engage in the magic of photosynthesis to give the energy to the tree. The seeds and the fruit that carry the seeds, genes, out into the world looking for fertile ground. So this is you guys. Nick Hyman, you and Freddie Mason, you're the leaves when you feed us your music. The Donald, you are the leaves as you share your films and your facial hair abundance. Eric, you are the leaves as you spread your curiosity in the classroom. Preston, you are the leaves when you take on the Bahamian lionfish. And Shawwal, you are the leaves when you step on stage. Sam Rice, you are the seeds when you play on for Africa. Charlie and Matt, you are the seeds as you reach out for student internships. Nick, you are the fruit when you give 3 admissions tours in a single day. And Charles, you are the fruit when you never say no. This was helpful for me at this time of year to think about ourselves as a tree. It gave me direction. But I think we can all benefit. Everybody in this room can benefit from this metaphor, and we can probably disagree and elaborate on it. That's a healthy discussion. But I think we should all be asking ourselves about the type of tree we want to be, the part of the tree we all play, and how well we're playing it. But to you boys, the simple message that I'm trying to deliver is while it may not feel this way when you're a little tiny leaf on an oak tree, it is in fact your energy that sustains this tree. So go find the sun. Thank you.